All right, Charlie, thank you so much. Carol Massar along with Tim Stenovec live here at Bloomberg headquarters in New York City. Yes, indeed, a stock on our radar. You know, it is a top decliner in the NASDAQ 100, a top decliner in the S&P 500. We're talking about shares of Netflix. Stock's still down about 10%, tumbling the most in 4 years on an intraday basis after the company gave a forecast for the second quarter that fell short of expectations on Wall Street. Underwhelming the street just months after it lost out on that bid for Warner Brothers Discovery, which when they did finally lose out, investors kind of cheered it.
They were really happy about that.
Yeah.
The stock had been getting punished, and it's up quite a bit since then, even with today's decline. The streaming pioneer also announcing that chairman and co-founder Reed Hastings is stepping down after 29 years at the company to pursue philanthropy and personal interests. So we are extremely interested in the quarter and what Netflix looks like without Reed Hastings, the guy who really helped create and change the way that we consume TV now. Covering and guiding the media and entertainment coverage here at Bloomberg is Bloomberg News media and entertainment editor Felix Gillette. He's the author of It's Not TV, The Spectacular Rise, Revolution, and Future of HBO. He joins us here in the Bloomberg Business Week studio. We'll talk about the quarter a little bit in the guide, and you know, I think that's a big part of the reason the stock is moving. But we're also really interested in Reed Hastings leaving, you know, officially. I think it's fair to say he's had a foot out the door for a couple of years since he hasn't been CEO, and he handed that off to people who I think investors would describe and analysts would describe as very capable people. Maybe you would describe them that way too?
Yeah, I mean, I think compared to some of their competitors, this is an example of succession that's worked very well. But at the same time, it does feel like Netflix is at this fascinating crossroads right now, right? They just went out and tried to make this enormous M&A deal to buy Warner Brothers Discovery, then backed out of it. And, you know, just a couple months after all of that goes down, now Reed Hastings is leaving the company for good. So, yeah, it's a really interesting time to think and pause and be like, well, what is Netflix's future? What's their next move? And I think, you know, there's some question about where the growth is going to come from.
Step back. If they had gotten Warner Brothers Discovery, do you think we'd be talking about Reed Hastings leaving the board?
I think it's possible. I mean, he was never, you know, into the M&A deals. He was always very much about growing organically. He always had concerns about how these huge deals play out culturally inside of companies. I really do think this was driven by the current CEOs. But at the same time, yeah, there might be more interest to stick around and figure out how that, you know, transaction would have gone down. He's always been super interested in the cultural engineering. How do you put together a workplace culture?
Yeah, the 2009 culture deck that got so much attention. This idea that you don't treat your colleagues as family, you treat them instead as teammates. And I think he said, you know, average employees will get generous severance. Like, he doesn't want average people. He encouraged people to go out and actually get other job offers, come back with them so that Netflix could beat them, so they'd actually look, you know, at what they're worth in the marketplace, like pro athletes.
Yeah, I mean,
did that shape the company?
Yeah, I mean, from the beginning, it was always, he always treated it as this experiment, almost like a laboratory, and how you make people work together. And I mean, what's fascinating when you look back at the history of it is, like, you know, Reed Hastings had no initial ambition to even go into the entertainment business, right? They were like, we just are interested in online retail with the internet. And they were thinking about dog food or baseball bats or all these other surfboards. And then they're like, oh, you know, these new little things called DVDs would work perfectly in the mail. We could send them out. People could, you know, put in the request via the website. And, you know, you think of how much entertainment history has changed because of that decision. But yeah, I think that, like, the entertainment side was almost you know, separate from his initial interest, which was like web-based retail and also that component of, like, the experimental workforce.
And yet here we are. Netflix is the streaming company to beat, right? Ahead by a long margin or wide margin based on everybody else. But having said that, investors are disappointed. And I guess one of the things we were trying to get after the company reported earnings yesterday, Felix, is it because they didn't get the content from Warner Brothers, or what's going on here?
I think part of it is
expectations.
Yeah, I mean, it's expectations. It's also looking at the engagement with Netflix content, which has kind of, you know, flatlined a little bit over the last couple of years. And I think people are wondering, you know, where does the future growth come from if it doesn't come from a Warner Brothers Discovery acquisition? You know, they've tried to do things like video games. That hasn't really proven to be a big hit yet. More recently, they've started going into podcasting and more topical content, sports. But I think it is a question, like, where is that growth coming from? What's the plan exactly? You add in the charismatic founder leaving, and yeah, people have questions.
Ted Sarandos on the call yesterday said podcasts on the service are, quote, doing great, and that the price hike, Greg Peters saying the price hike hasn't changed customer behavior. I want to talk about AI with you. We're going to get to that in a second because they made some comments about AI on the call yesterday. But before we do that, to Carol's point about diversifying away from the core product, like if we were talking 5 years ago, 6 years ago, Netflix would never do live content. Netflix would never do games. Netflix would never do sports. Like, leave that to the traditional players.
Right.
Now, the Netflix of today is, I think, almost maybe unrecognizable to people who knew this company 5 or 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Is that as a result of what it views as competition, which is whatever anyone is doing on their phone or on their screen when they're not watching Netflix?
Yeah, I mean, I think that very early on they pivoted from being, our competition is HBO to our competition is YouTube, Twitch, sleep. I think they said that at one point, like just anything that like takes people's time. Like we're in the time business, we're in like getting people, and there's so much competition on all these different fronts, and they're trying to do this at a global scale, which also is like part of the ambition and vision for that. And I think that that's great, except for the fact that the original programming has worked. And the advertising business is growing. They've proven that they can do live sports, which again 10 years ago you would have said they're never going to have an NFL football game. They have an NFL football game. You can watch it. It doesn't glitch. They're serving advertisements in there. So that is again it's adjacent to what they started off as, but it is different. But the podcasting is a huge question mark. Is that actually, so they've struggled with topical content forever. They've tried all these different talk shows that there's just a long roster of comedians that have come in there, done a season of episodes and then just disappeared. And so I think that challenge of getting people to show up at a specific time to watch a specific thing, which you need to do in order to grow your advertising business, is really at the forefront of what they're doing. And I think that they're showing some real progress there.
I'm looking at, our story by Lucas Shaw that's out on the terminal, and it just talks about, under Hastings, which he introduced the Netflix service ultimately in more than 190 territories, outmaneuvering Hollywood studios to build the most valuable entertainment company in the world. You really think about its place, right? When it comes to content creation, it really is a behemoth. I do wonder, though, getting back to that idea of, at some point, is there just too much stuff out there? Is there an excess capacity in this industry where it just starts to kind of eat into some of these services? It's just going to have to.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's been one of the challenges for everybody that's built a streaming service. I think Netflix has been more successful at building discovery options, creating an algorithm that serves up viewers things that look interesting, but it's still a challenge. It's still as everyone knows, they jump on the streaming service. What do I want to watch? Oh, there's only 50,000 options sitting there. And there's a paralysis that's involved with that. And they're continue to work on that and trying to figure out what is the best technology for surfacing things that will get people to watch and keep watching. But that's the end, that never will end. I feel like that's the challenge that just goes on forever for Netflix and
all
everybody
of them.
else in this
I always feel like I look and I'm like, nothing to watch, which is crazy, right? And I don't know whether it's being overwhelmed.
Okay, my friend has this notes doc with all the recommendations that he shares with us. I'll share it with you.
So we talk about the makeup room. What are you watching? What are you watching?
It's also fun to look at someone else's Netflix front page because it's just so totally different. You're like, wait, that's the same service as mine?
Yeah.
And that's the ideal for them. I mean, to create, to serve